fuck up. It's always telling me how awful I am, how fat I am, how unworthy I am. And I've fucking had enough. The best part is, I don't actually have to listen to that mean voice inside my head anymore. But now comes the hard part, cleaning up all of its mess and getting rid of every single fucked up word it has ever spoken to me. This is my therapy, my way of healing. And sharing all that I have learned over the last few years. So enjoy my fucked up thoughts. Nobody understands me. Nobody knows who the real me even is. How can they though, when I'm not always so sure? It's hard, isn't it, being understood? The question is, can we ever know the entirety of one human being? And my answer to that is no. So why will nobody understand me or you completely? Because there are so many different parts to who we are that encompass each and every thought, feeling, belief, attitude, characteristic, behavior, and what drives each and every one of them on a daily basis. And the expression of all of that can be a challenge in itself, especially when those around you are unwilling or unable to see beyond their own way of thinking. I have felt different for as long as I can remember, that I didn't fit into this world. I saw life as meaningless and submissive, with everyone just following along and abiding by ridiculous rules. I tried to follow along too, but I was not very good at it. These last few years of self-discovery have certainly led to some major discoveries, but unfortunately, these discoveries are creating an even greater challenge. Nobody understands me. Interacting with one another is fucking hard. One person will say something to another that they believe is completely innocent, but that other person will take offense. Who is in the wrong? Is there a right and a wrong? Or is there simply two people communicating from two very different perspectives? Now, I'm not talking about the major issues of our world, where one person thinks it's okay to speak oppressively and brutally towards another because of their race, their religion, their political views, their country, or any of the isms that violate a person's right to be themselves. This is more the minor stuff that we come across in the relationships we have with those closest to us and those we encounter throughout our lives. I notice words being misconstrued all the time. I do it myself. And when I am in one of my observational moods, I wonder where all of the words a person is speaking have come from. Because all of those words are propelled out of them from 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 minutes ago. Each word has a hidden meaning, and that hidden meaning, each word has a hidden meaning that even the speaker does not recognize. It is with these words that the person hearing them then makes their own assumption about their delivery. And that assumption also designates experiences from many years ago to the conversation, turning it slightly on its axis, creating a fragmented or entirely new exchange from the original intention. So what forces are behind these weary and unintentional interactions? Because ultimately, this is where the misunderstanding of someone comes from. The interactions we collide with and coincide with every day of our lives. I suck at relationships, like really bad. Some days I can be great, but most days I have no idea what I am doing, which makes the connection with family and friends seem as if it has broken beyond repair. But I try, and I keep trying. And this realization has only occurred to me in the last couple of weeks. I knew I wasn't great, but my understanding of it stems, or so I thought, from my failed friendships from high school. Back in my high school days, I had a few friends, but I was a fat one, so I got teased a lot for most of my year. Thankfully, though, there were plenty of people who didn't give a shit about my weight. Certainly not as much as I did. Which is sad that I can only see this now as a woman instead of when I was living it as a teenager. There was one who I considered to be my best friend. We were nearly always together. Then the ugly duckling became the swan. Well, I still looked like Shrek. This was great for her, but not so much for me. I internalized it and made it more personal than it needed to be. I hated who she became, as she was now what I longed to be, skinny and pretty. Not that she was ever as overweight or even ugly like me, but she did have that Hollywood teen movie makeover where she had some dental work done, changed out her big ugly glasses, wore new clothes, and lost just enough weight for it to matter. All of that hit me hard because I was too hopeless to do anything about my own miserable situation. I was stuck being fat, which distended the hate for myself even further. It's funny how you can look back and see all that you could have done better, but at the time it meant something. In the whirlwind of emotion and thought, all that you once were was too blind to see straight. I thought she preferred others to me. I believed she no longer wanted to be around me, so I distanced myself. I was so caught up in my own horrid feelings that I was unable to recognize anyone else in the equation. It was all about me and my feelings of hate and self-loathing, of no one wanting to love such a hideous beast. Her supposed treatment of me scarred me for life. I took what I believed to be the truth of that relationship and used it to defend each and every fucked up friendship I've had since. So now we are going to mix that bag of bullshit into the bag of bullshit I was also carrying around from the two other people I call my parents. Their lack of love for who I was as a person filled that bag up to the brim. It overflowed as I continued to fill it up from every other failed relationship I have ever had over the years. What does this have to do with my cries of nobody understands me, you might be asking? Because ultimately, I held strong to the belief that nobody understood me, nobody loved me, nobody liked me, and all of that stuff inside of me was just, it was way too much for anyone to even care about. There was so much of it. I had to ignore most of it. How was anyone else going to understand all of these parts of me if I wasn't willing to either? Which is why I still, to this day, find it ridiculously exhausting interacting with other people. I would rather be alone with my stupid and foolish thoughts to suffer in silence. Alas, though, I cannot. I must put on my big girl pants and face what the world has to offer. Which is also what I want to do. I am on both sides of the same coin. I am all of the peas in a pod. I am the icing on the cake. I am all of it. A tumultuous combination causing confusion in my communications. The awareness I have has opened myself up to give way to a persistence of doing better, of coming from somewhere other than the hurt and angry teenager of the past years. But yet she is still there on some days, expressing her hurt with a rush of harsh words, taking over the gentle and kind words I was hoping to distinctly and appropriately articulate. This then knocks the conversation from its aligned axis, spinning the conversation into a turbulent twister. And it happens both ways. So in the fascinating book that I read by Michael Newton, which I mentioned in my last podcast, his work involves putting clients into a trance so he can learn what our souls have been getting up to between incarnations. It really is an eye-opener. And whether you believe in this stuff or not, it's definitely worth a read. And I mention it again because what he reveals does go a long way into explaining more about our misunderstood selves. And couple this with another fascinating read by Ainsley MacLeod, The Old Soul's Guidebook, Who You Are and Why You Are Here, brings an even deeper understanding for you to recognize about yourself, even if others can't. Do you believe you have been here before, in another time and in another body? Most of us have a strong opinion on reincarnation. It is either in support of that idea or categorically against it. In the earlier years of my life, I had no opinion. I think I kind of considered it because when I heard about it, I felt more inclined to believe it was true than not. I just never really gave it much thought unless it came into my awareness. And honestly, there is a part of me that considers this stuff to be bogus. Who are these weirdos talking about such nonsense? Now, if I push those limiting thoughts aside and sit with the information, I can feel there is more to us than what this life has given us. And my digging into myself has revealed a lot, but it has also left some questions that I'm desperate to find the answers to. Hence my incessant book reading. What good is all this knowledge, though, if the people I interact with have no idea about what I have found? How on earth do you tell someone that the reaction I have to a certain occurrence is because I was burned at the stake for being a witch, or that I was left to die tied up to a mast? That my voice is weak and hopeless because these two past lives left my soul feeling discouraged about speaking up for what I believe in. That the strong feelings I have inside of me relate to the brutal force I endured to silence my voice. That the strong feelings I have inside relate to the brutal force I endured to silence my voice. I've never understood my silence. I could never pinpoint where it came from. Somewhere along the way, I began to question it, if it came from this lifetime. Now I know it did not. The silence I have and the deep fear I have about speaking up and out interferes with my ability to communicate effectively. Others view my silence for many other reasons. They do not know silence is not because I am shy or that I am indifferent to what's going on or that I am possibly a snob. My silence in group settings is misunderstood. I like to observe what is happening around me. I like to decipher the inner workings of the people close to me. I like to sit and wallow in my misery. I like to be angry at everyone for not knowing who I am more intimately. I hold on to the fear of using my voice for the belief that they all do not care enough about what I have to say. And I transmit that out into the universe that my voice is no longer worthy of the fight. The fight to have people seen as more than easy targets for any kind of abuse. The fight to be seen and heard as someone worth listening to. The fight to be who I truly am and the fight for everyone else to be able to display who they truly are. The fight is dominant inside of me, and I have used it in negative ways. I have used it to fight for meaningless causes. And the deeper you go, the more is revealed to you. And the more is revealed to you, the more understanding you have of who you are in this lifetime and why. Finally, I can explain these two big misunderstandings of my being. My desire to right the wrongs and use my voice with eminent power. My misunderstanding of these qualities took me down a path of self-destruction. But thankfully, I can see clearer now, with thanks to those who have opened me up to what else could be. You know, sitting here doing my best to precisely and distinctly explain what is going on inside of me it's a struggle. How do you explain every little thing, every little thought and feeling that makes up the sum total of who I am? Which is my point of this podcast exactly. You can't. You may read this and hear this and think I am a total nut, or you may read this and hear this and think the differences inside of you, or feel the differences inside of you that are hard for others to understand. I want to share all of myself with everyone I know, especially with my husband, but I can't. I really do feel it's impossible. When someone isn't quite as open as you are to recognizing all of who we contain, then it's best to keep myself, or it's best to keep most of yourself a secret, which sucks. This means that there are people close to us that will never really know who we are. And that causes problems with the ones you love, because your actions, words, and behaviors will constantly be misconstrued. And you will do the same. We talk about opening the lines of communication, but those lines are full of static. The lines can drop out. They are interfered with because our past comes into play too much. Not just the past from this life, but apparently the past from our past lives. According to Michael Newton and his research, our souls are energetically cleansed when they move back into the spiritual world from the physical world. However, some residue of emotional body imprints carry with the soul into their next reincarnation, especially relating to karmic lessons each soul wants to address in their new life. Which explains my debilitating fear of speaking out and the fight I have within me. My husband and I have had many fights over the years. This doesn't mean we love each other any less. I now believe this comes from so much of who we are and those parts of us we are yet to understand. Our communication is terrible when it comes to really getting our point across, particularly for me. I have conviction, I have opinion, I have certainty, but none of that matters when it comes, or when it cannot be voiced with confidence and assurance. I am not assured of a loving response. Does that come from him as a person, or does that come from the deep-seated belief that my words are of no importance? That who I am is of little significance, that my right will be taken away from me with these words of retaliation. And when we do fight, and I cannot voice myself in the way I want to, he gets caught up in the moments from the past that convince him of who he thinks I am being in that instance, which aggravates the situation even further. Understanding who I am is important to me, but is it important to anyone else? Is understanding those close to me important? Yes, but not as important as understanding myself. I am, more often than I would like to be, caught up in the learning of each of my aspects that I forget to be more understanding of the person in front of me. We humans are a complicated bunch. We are selfish, angry, sad, unhappy, shallow, superficial, thoughtless, ungrateful, and uncaring. But does that mean that this is all there is to us? Gosh, no. We are also on the other end of the spectrum. Happy, joyful, caring, grateful, thoughtful, selfless, charitable, deep, profound, intelligent, so much more. And we crisscross over every part of the spectrum. We are simply misunderstood as individual beings. But I think as long as we take the time every day to understand all of our thoughts, feelings, actions, behaviors, beliefs, and every inch of our existence, then that understanding will filter out into the world of understanding. We will be more aware of the fact that there are numerous whys to the reactions of others, that their communication does not come from where we believe it comes from, that we can be still for a moment and recognize that the person in front of us has their own unique and painful history, which propels them into your personal space, creating an interaction of many variations. So, the next time someone steps into your personal space and opens their mouth, do not judge those words. Do not fill them with events from your own past. What is it in this moment? What can I understand about this person in front of me? What can I understand about myself? Essentially, no one will ever completely understand you. As long as you take the time to understand yourself, then that understanding will raise your understanding of others without having total knowledge of their inner selves. Trust is definitely the most important part of this equation. Trust in who you are, and trust that the person who loves you is doing their best too. Trust yourself in your interactions and communications. Take your understandings and use them when and if it feels right. Whatever your fucked up or amazing relationships are, trust the other person to be there for you. And trust everything you know and all that is yet to be known is there to love and guide you. We are a mystery. But let's not keep it that way entirely, at least not to yourself. And of course, when that voice wants to insist on making a big deal out of your interactions and communications, just yell out into the ether, shut the fuck up. All right, your exercise for this week. Is to take time to know yourself better. Take as much as you already know about yourself and dissect where the understanding of these things has come from. Is it true? Who gave them to me? Where have they come from? Have they come from this lifetime? Just question, understand, give yourself the gift of knowing yourself better. But the biggest present of all is your own personal growth, expanding your awareness and using your understanding to create a lifetime that is worthy of your attention. All right. I reckon you're not the only one with so many fucked up thoughts. So thank you so much for listening. And remember, keep on shouting, shut the fuck up. All right, until next time.